Hi everyone, it's Christine Pierce with Stamp for Joy 2, and I want to share with you a card that I just made that was inspired by Mary Detheridge using this Loyal Leaves stamp set. I really like these skeleton leaves, and I absolutely love what Mary did using these with lots of different tricks. This is called Joseph's Coat, this technique that we're going to do, and this is my card. Isn't that just gorgeous? I love fall. I love leaves, autumn, the changing of the seasons, and I'm just super excited to show you how I made this. So let's go ahead and jump in. So I'm going to use a piece of Very Vanilla cardstock, and this is 5 inches by 3 3/4 in size. And what I'm going to do first is just lay some color down using some different ink pads. I have 4 different ink pads I'm going to use. The first one is Crushed Curry, and it's going to be a ink pad to paper technique. So you're going to use a light touch, but you're going to just drag this in different directions on your paper. And I want quite a bit of yellow on mine, so I'm going to go in a few different directions with that one. And let's see, I've kind of cluttered my space here with lots of supplies, so bear with me. The next one is Pumpkin Pie, and we're going to continue. I'm going to use this end of my ink pad since this has the grab edge. This is a little bit easier to get in touch with the paper, so just coming in some different directions, putting down light little streaks of color. And you want to start with your lightest colors and go to the darkers. That way, if you do get orange, you know, if you would pick up any of the yellow is lighter. It's not going to ruin my pumpkin pie pad. Here is the Cajun Craze. And so we'll put a little bit of that on here as well. Again, using just that light touch. It's okay if you get little bits of the darker, but I did have one earlier where I got a lot of the Old Olive, which is my last color I'm going to use. So I'm going to be a little more careful this time because I ended up throwing that one away. I really didn't like how it turned out. So I want to be a little bit more careful, using light touches, and that looks great. So next what I'm going to do is I want this to dry a little bit. So I'm going to help that along with my embossing tool, my heat tool, and I'm going to pause this video while I do that. So bear with me just a moment. Okay, I'm back. So the next thing I'm going to do is use my Embossing Buddy. This is a retired tool that Stampin' Up! Did retire, but they are going to be bringing it back because so many of us have let them know that we need this to be able to do embossing and not leave our fingerprints on our card. And I'm going to use some Versamark now to do some stamping. This is a clear pigment ink, and so I'm going to use 2 of the 3 different leaves from the stamp set, and I want to put them all over this, and bright lights help you to kind of know where you've been. Otherwise you can pick this up and use the light that you have to see where you've put the leaves. It's okay if they overlap a little bit. I'm going to turn this a few different directions, see where I've stamped. I'm going to add a little bit more light to my workspace here a moment. That helped tremendously. All right, I think I just need something in this corner here. And that looks pretty good. So the next thing I'm going to do is use some embossing powder. And I'm using the clear embossing powder. going to be really generous with this, and I do have my ceiling fan on, so hopefully this doesn't go everywhere. Be really, really generous with it because I want to cover all of those leaves. And we'll put this back. This is another retired tool that Stampin' Up! Used to sell, is the Embossing Buddy trays. Powder Pals, sorry, Powder Pal trays. And I'm really grateful I held on to mine when they retired that. I use it a lot. So be right back. I'm going to heat emboss this so you'll be able to hopefully see some of my leaves when I come back. Okay, we're back. And I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see these real well, just the glistening of the embossing powder. But the next step should help you to be able to see them even more. What I'm going to use is my soft suede ink pad and a piece of Stampin' Sponge. I have put a clothespin on this just to try to help keep my fingers a little bit more clean. And what I'm going to do is really ink this sponge up and work in circular motions here to lay down some of this soft suede brown ink on my card. You can really use any dark ink. I just really like how suede went with these other colors that I've used. And I'm gonna lay down quite a bit of this brown on my card. As I do, you'll see the leaves start to appear. The clear embossing powder actually resists the ink and makes these leaves show up so that they'll pop a little bit on my card. And as I get over to this left edge, what I'm going to do is take my paper towel and rub some of this ink off of my embossing powder, or off of my embossed images, to see how they're showing through. You can always go back and add more of the soft suede. If you want more brown or want more of a depth in your color. And then you can come back with your paper towel, wiping that off the embossing again. And then what I'm going to do is spin this around so that I can work on the other edge. I know I'm shaking the camera as I'm doing this, so I apologize for the bumpy ride. I just love how these pop. Each one is going to turn out differently based on where you've placed your leaves, where you've laid how you've laid the color down on the base card. And you can try different color combinations. But I think this looks great. So then what I'll do is go ahead and put my card together. And for that I'm going to use my silicone mat and my Stampin' Seal. And I have a couple of strips of cardstock, some of the soft suede, and the Cajun Craze. Maybe I should have done these one at a time. They are very sticky. Anytime I am using adhesive, especially on a thin strip of paper, I like to use my silicone mat because it won't get sticky. It resists the adhesive, so I don't get my workstation all sticky. I'm going to lay that across here and add some of the Cajun. And if it hangs over the edge, you can take a paper snip from the back, cut that off. And then what I did was I took some of our adhesive sheets. Here they are. We have some foam adhesive sheets. These are like dimensionals, but it comes in a square that's I think like 4 1/4 by 4 1/4. I cut it to 4 1/4 by 1, and I cut a piece of the same size out of my cardstock, so that I can just peel this adhesive sheet and stick it to my cardstock. And then what I did was I took the letters from our dies and laid them on here and ran it through the Big Shot. Then what you get are foam letters that you can pop out, taking the dies off of that, and you can just pop these out and stick them right on your card. So I do want to start with the S because I want to work my way backwards from the right edge and build my word onto my card. And I don't need any adhesive since these foam sheets have the built-in adhesive on them. So if it does cut all the way out, you just peel the backing off. And what I could have done too is I could take the blends to the edges of my foam to make even the edges of my letters yellow if I wanted to. I'm not going to take the time for that today. Get the center out of my A here. Just line up, set those down. I think this H could go either way. You can have it low or high in the crossbar there. And there's that. Then I'm gonna just build these layers that I have for my card. And these are, I think, 1/8 inch layers, the different colors that I had used on my card. Use a Cajun Craze base. And I could either lay this right on here or pop it up with dimensionals. I think I'm gonna just go ahead and stick it down. With our Stamp and Seal adhesive. And there it is. And I could put a piece of Very Vanilla cardstock on the inside of that. But what do you think? Isn't that gorgeous? I really like it. I hope you do too.